What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time, it's for DDDs. So I guess if you've been around on the channel for a while, you will definitely have seen a DDD profile from me before. It was probably the video that made this channel kind of popular. We saw like the big explosion after I uploaded the first DDD video. So if you're one of the guys who was here originally for the first DDD profile, welcome back. We're here for another DDD profile. Of course, the deck has gotten a whole bunch of new support now. It makes it so much better. Something I do need to preface with before we start this is a European region deck profile. For DDDs, that does matter quite a lot because we don't have access to Go over here, because jump promos aren't legal, and they haven't reprinted it yet. Feels really good. Odds on if we're gonna get it, we're probably gonna get it in like the new Ghost of the Past, or Ghost in the Past 2, or whatever they're calling it. Return of the Haunting, whatever. Anyway, before we get started on this one, as always, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people to the channel. And let's get on into this deck profile. Before we do get started on this one, though, it is brought to you, of course, by yourplaymat.com, who got us our beautiful NolanTCG extra deck sleeves. These are available on yourplaymat.com, as well as you can get custom sleeves and custom playmats, so whatever you need for the current format. There is an affiliate link in the description down below that does get you a little bit of a discount on your order. Also, enter the code NOLAN10YP for 10% off your order. Also kicks back a little bit to the channel, so everything will be very much appreciated. If you're shopping there, you're getting custom sleeves, custom playmats down. Make sure to enter our code at checkout. But let's get on into this deck profile. Okay, so starting us off, we have the new guy. It is 3 copies of DD Griffin. Our card does so much for this deck. This card pretty much gains access to everything in the deck, because you get, yeah, this card is so good. 3 effects, gives you the extender, gives you materials to play with, and then gets access to pretty much everything in your deck. After that, we have our primary normal summon, I guess. Well, the next 2 cards are our primary normal summons. We've got 3 copies of Savant Kepler. Of course, adds pretty much everything in the deck. Both of these cards together would be full combo in the TCG, in the North America. Opening these 2 is like the nuts. Here, not so much because we don't have a way to pendulum summon Kepler, which holds us back a fair bit in our combos. Then after that, we go into the next normal summon. Again, this gets access to a lot of stuff in your deck, which is the reason why we're playing it. It is 3 copies of 3 copies of 3 DD Savant Kepler. Of course, these are the cards you need to kind of start your combos off, so it's the reason why we're maximizing them out at 3. Next card we have at 3 is just a card that makes DDD things happen. It's 3 copies of Swirl Slime. Of course, discarding it and another card from your hand to do the fusion summons, and then you typically just get constant access to your graveyard anyway. So that is always good. And then we go into our 2-ofs. So now we're on to 2 copies of Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. Not as important as what it has been in the past for DDDs, which is the reason why we only need to play 2 of it, but still free extension. Also a good card just to generally have in your scales at all times. 2 copies of DD Orthos. If you're in North America, the 1 card I would recommend cutting from this deck is the 1 copy of Orthos for the Go. It's a very, very good card. That's why I'm playing it at 2. But it's not necessary at 2. The pen scale effect is probably the one you're going to be using the most in the European region, so it's always good to have a second as a tune that you can kind of come out with. But yeah, in North America, you have Go, so you don't necessarily always need to have this in your scale for most combos. Then after that, we have some more 2-ofs. So we've got 2 copies of Necro Slime, again, just generic fusion summons, does with DDD things and makes DDD things happen. Then we have 2 copies of Lamia. Again, another card nowhere near as important as it used to be in DDD combos, but it is still kind of a double extension. You can get it onto board and then you can get it back to board later on. And then it gets you into your synchro plays, which is kind of important if you want to look at a synchro deck with the new field spell. Then we have our 1-ofs after that. So we have 1 copy of Cerberus. It's in here because it comes up from time to time. 1 copy of Thomas, another card nowhere near as useful as what it used to be, but still very, very good. 1 copy of Baphomet, another just kind of generically good card. And then 1 copy of Vice Typhoon, just to give you a bit of variance out of your, the Necro Slime. So it's just another Necro Slime, basically. Then we go into our spells, so we have the generic Searcher for, again, pretty much every card in the deck. Your Dark Contract with the Gate. There is a way to turn this into pretty much every card, so if you see it, you just have whatever you want. 1 copy of Swamp King for the fusion summoning. Comes up a decent amount, but it's not super necessary to have on your board at all times. And then the new field spell, the card that can hopefully lock your opponent out if you're playing that kind of style of build, which is pretty much what this version is. It's just lock your opponent out from whatever you can and make sure they can't play, which is the funnest way to play Yu-Gi-Oh, isn't it? Next off, we have a bunch of 3-ofs that you can realistically change these for anything you want if you want to make the deck more budget. I'm starting us off with 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talents, just because if we get hand trapped, we want to be able to draw in more cards and kind of extend from there. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, just to generically draw cards and get us access to a lot of stuff. Then we have our Power 1-of, so 1 for 1, because it gets us access to Kepler, and Kepler gets us access to everything. Called by the Grave, just to get rid of hand traps. And a Monster Reborn for generic extension. And then for our traps, we have our 2 kind of good DD trap cards. So we've got 1 Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. Can lock out, this is mainly for Flonderis. Flonderis is relatively popular where I am. So Dark Contract with Eternal Darkness stops them from tribute summoning. That's always good. And then we have the 1 copy of Headhunt as essentially a crackdown for the deck. Okay, next off we have our extra deck, and starting us off, we are playing 3 copies of Abyss King Gilgamesh. I know playing 3 copies of Abyss King Gilgamesh is kind of scrubby. It's just there to fix a lot of mistakes that you can kind of make during your combos. Given that this deck is like slightly complicated, playing 3 at all times is not super necessary. Like 2 is fine, but if you make 1 mistake in your combos, you are going to need that 3rd. So if you have the space, you may as well play the 3rd just to be safe. For our Synchro line, Gus King Alexander, completely cuttable if you wish to cut it. I just kind of play it here to give you that Synchro coverage easy, that you can kind of get off your Lamia coming back from the grave, but it gets banished, so you can't then, of course, go into the Siegfried from that. But we do have the access to the Siegfried with the level 4 Pendulum Tuner. Then we go into our fusions, so we start off with 2 copies of Flame King Genghis. Very, very, very good card, because it's free reborn, free extension. Also a fusion to lock your opponent out from making DPE. Well, they still can make DPE, but they can, yeah, if they're a fusion deck, they're gone. Invoked. No, turn that off. Then we have 1 copy of Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok, just generically here for pushing game. 1 copy of Oracle King Diark for doing cute stuff with all of your like spells, with all your dark contracts, making sure you're not going to die from them. And then 1 copy of High King Genghis gives you coverage on your own turn for doing combos, also gives you another form of extension. Then we have our Xyz lineup. This is probably the most important Xyz has ever been for this deck, so it is something to very much have in your deck. 1 copy of Wave King Caesar, of course, gets you the free adds pretty much when it gets to Graveyard. Marksman King Tell also pretty much gives you a free add. It gives you the Foolish, so, you know, that's always good. It generically will end normally in a free add, so, yeah, good card. 1 copy of High King Caesar. There are ways to play around Nibiru in this deck. Still much more difficult without Go than it is in the OCG, or the North America. I'm so used to referring to the OCG. But yeah, you know, for this deck, 2 different formats. Yeah, so High King Caesar, typically here to help you play around that kind of stuff. Then we only have the 1 copy of Divisor King Deus Machinex. Realistically, play this at 2. I just don't have 2. I just didn't manage to get a hold of a 2nd copy before now. So yeah, playing it at 1 for now. We'll probably consider finding 2 if I can kind of find the space. It'll probably be for the 3rd copy of Gilgamesh. And then lastly, 1 copy of AA Zeus. This deck, of course, given that you have the Machinex, can make an Xyz pretty quickly. And then you just turn it into a Zeus, and then you clear your opponent's board. That is probably the number 1 reason why I would recommend playing 2 copies of the Machinex. Yeah, just so you can freely make a Zeus, and then you can use the other one for combos. But that wraps up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you do have any recommendations or things you would change, do make sure to comment them down below. I did say it earlier, so please make sure you paid attention to the fact that this is a EU region profile. This is not a North American region profile. Dear God, do not play this deck profile in North America, because you have Go, and Go will make the deck so much more consistent. But as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.